I'm no longer bound by human limitations. I'm not a thing. I'm not a being. I am an idea. And I am everywhere.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Redemus Maximus.
Good evening. This is Jay Lovecraft.
I'm your Star Queen.
And this is 8 Bits and Dice Rolls Podcast.
Hooray!
So this is a wonderful week for nerdism because we just got done with the Bartholomew County Comic-Con.
Yep.
That was awesome.
Oh, that was so sweet.
Thank you, everybody, for having us there. We had a great time and hope to come back next year.
Yes.
And then we had a couple really good nerdy movies come out. What just came out, Star Queen?
We had Dungeons and Dragons just came out, and Mario just came out too.
Yes, and we ended up going to see Dungeons and Dragons last night, and it was really good. A lot better than we thought it was going to be.
Now it's time I need to break my cherry on that movie.
Yes, it's wonderful. If you guys haven't seen it, absolutely recommend it. And the other big one, obviously, this weekend in the UK, Star Wars Celebration 2023.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, and HoosierCon. Let's not forget that one, too.
Oh, HoosierCon on the
I
same
forgot
weekend.
that was going on this weekend.
There's a lot of, like I said, it's really good. It's kind of odd that it's on Easter, Sunday weekend. But hey, it's a great week for nerds, right?
Yeah, it's nerd-rich entertainment.
Yes. And so obviously with Celebration going on, we've been keeping up daily with everything going on. It was day 2 today, which is Saturday if this episode doesn't come out before then. And they're hitting a lot of stuff. They've been talking about a lot like droids and all that kind of stuff, which actually takes us into what this episode is all about.
Yes.
We are going to be talking about artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Because it is a massive topic across YouTube, across literally the internet right now. We've got the launch of ChatGPT 4.
ChatGPT 4, yes.
Yeah, which is the newest one.
That's scary.
It's a big deal. Yeah. So obviously there is a lot to kind of break down about this. This is going to be kind of a condensed version of opinions and a few other, commentary type things, but bear with us. This is a very interesting topic because this is kind of where the world is going at the moment, right?
Oh, yeah. This is like Cyberpunk 2023 right now.
Yeah, it's about to be. So, yeah, obviously, if you are not familiar with artificial intelligence it is the system that is created by us, essentially. So Microsoft adapted it, and even before that, people were working on it to where they could have some kind of sentient computer program that basically was able to act like a human.
Scary that.
Well,
Yes.
semi-sentient anyway.
Yeah.
Semi-sentient.
ChatGPT was a good idea to cut it off by like 2012 or 2021, whatever the cutoff point was, so it couldn't keep learning. But yeah, so let's start with obviously the history of it. So it's very sci-fi. We see this a lot in Star Wars, obviously with the droids and everything like that. They have physical emotions and things like that. You even have the movie with Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, yes.
Yeah, we have Robin Williams in the Bicentennial Man, where they actually bring up the theory of, is it wrong to own robots and things like that? Is it wrong to own a cyborg or an AI and all those kind of things? And that, sparked up even more. We had movies like I, Robot, where there was a sentient robot that was designed to murder,
Yeah, and believe it or not, in the Star Trek universe, Star Trek The Next Generation, there was, in fact, an episode called The Measure of a Man, where, believe it or not, Starfleet was going to dissect Lieutenant Commander Data. Oh, I forgot. Today, it's Captain Data.
Yeah.
In which he was put to trial saying, are androids sentient beings? That is the very simple question of our time today.
Right. And that's kind of where all of this discussion on the internet is basically come to now. So even going back to the Bartholomew County Comic-Con, Star Queen, you actually did a panel on this.
That is correct. One of our panels, because I was one of the organizers of, and I should correct the record, it's not Bartholomew County Comic-Con, it's University Library Comic-Con. It's ULCC for short.
Okay.
So,
nice.
Yeah. And yeah, I was one of the panelists at a panel about AI art, because that is a big thing in the art community right now. And while I'm only an amateur artist myself, I've only been drawing for about a year now, just over, I do regularly deal with comics and artwork. So in a way, I do judge a lot of people's art. And even in libraries, we've had to face that now we can get procedurally generated artwork. There are people coming out with children's books that only have AI generated art and the story is written by ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's very popular, especially among the nerd community, because now you've got people basically writing their own D&D adventures through ChatGPT.
But as you can imagine, this has become a bit of a collection development nightmare for children specifically, because we have to think about the morality of the Supreme Court actually just ruled that no person can actually own any artwork that is generated by an AI. So this is why, for example, Marvel and DC will never use AI artwork ever. Because if an AI comes up with their own superhero, then because Marvel legally cannot own that artwork, that means there's nothing to stop one of their competitors, so like DC, IDW, Image, or anyone from using that artwork.
You know, it kind of reminds me a few weeks ago when I was just scrolling throughout the internet, and I came across some very strange pictures, and the question was asked to this AI, try to draw God. What does God look like?
Was it a Furby with many eyeballs and wings?
No, the most abstract entities I have ever seen.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of one of the big things too among the art in general. So we already kind of have issues with like digital art versus the old ink and pen anyway, right?
Right.
Not really.
I mean, I think so personally. I'm not a huge fan of digital art when it comes to new comics and things like that. But again, I'm kind of old school when it comes to that. But it's to that point of, you know, the issue I see with, you know, there obviously is a lot of issues with like stolen art and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
However, I'm kind of on the opposite side of that, where I am in the thought process of people are not as original as they like to think they are, because stolen art is literally from centuries ago. I mean, there were people that literally were copying each other and copying each other and copying each other.
Yeah.
So at this point, I mean, it's not original if an AI creates it, I think. However, there's another thing that's kind of creating the issue with the AIs. They are having an issue with certain facial features and things like that.
Correct.
It's called hallucinogenic error codes. And in case you haven't actually heard that, basically what it is it's assuming to a certain point that these are objectives that they were told to do, but they don't have enough parameters to go around this. Which is actually, I think at this point, still making jobs okay for a lot of like digital creators and content creators and all that other stuff. But that's just one opinion.
It kind of sounds like it kind of works from what it is given, and then it tries to guess, but it doesn't have an imaginary output in order to create that thing.
Correct.
See, and I think that's honestly why, even though it's been a huge boom, it's not the artists who are jumping on this to use it as like a reference. It's the NFT and crypto bros who are jumping on this instead, because it's, I don't want to say it's imaginatively bankrupt, but I believe it is. Even though, Redemus, you say that no artwork is truly original, I believe as an artist whose artwork probably isn't all that original, honestly, every time a human being makes a piece of artwork, you are seeing a glimpse of their world, of their worldview put onto that paper. Whether, and just for a brief moment, whether it's the Mona Lisa to some guy's artwork that is kind of unsavory involving furry critters. I will not say any more on that. I think we all know what I'm talking about there. Right. But still, that you're seeing this person's perspective into the world, and AI art doesn't have that. Well, actually, interestingly enough, somebody did come up to me after that panel at the con, and they showed me some artwork, and they were like, "You can't deny this is gorgeous." And I said, "Yes, well, it is pretty. what am I looking at here? What's the vision? What was the purpose? There's no feeling behind this.
It says, what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah, I'm like, okay, what was the objective here? Was the objective just to make art for the sake of art? Well, that's not giving me a worldview. You just made a picture for the sake of drawing a picture. That's not a window into their world. And I think that's also why one of the big commentaries I've seen as well is a lot of AI art, especially when you see it more frequently in like a certain sequence, like a children's book, it looks pretty soulless, honestly. Not that it isn't pretty, but it's very...
It has no depth. It has no personality. It has no particular vision of what humanity sees.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. So, for example, Redemus, I know you also said, again, no artwork is truly original. However, when it comes to certain artists, like, let's take Peach Momoko, for example. Peach Momoko has a very distinct style.
Sure, Japanese watercolor.
Japanese watercolor. And when you look at that artwork, you get a very whimsical feeling from it, as it's kind of transporting you back to that time of things were different back then, and it's very oriented around nature. And have you also noticed they don't really tend to use a lot of harsh colors as well? It's all very light colors. It's not jewel tones, it's very pastel. And
well, that also becomes because of the time frame.
Yes.
They didn't have access to multicolors and things like that. Things were only created by, the century of stuff that they have, and the colors, they're vivid. However, they didn't have the technology to make that. So Japanese watercolor goes very, very, very far back. However, I will touch on the fact that, yes, I'm not saying I don't disagree, but to the point where we're saying that the art feels soulless, I mean, you're also talking about a code literally writing this. There is no feeling behind that.
True.
So I don't disagree. I don't think that it's one of those stepping stones that it's really going to be in the way of artists right now. It's the same concept of why they're trying to do this whole machine learning thing in school. So machine learning only has a certain amount of levels it can get to before it's been basically, I guess, etched out like a fire, essentially.
Right.
So when you're telling a AI to, like, for instance, the big popular one right now is show Mario in a courtroom because he did something, right? It's a really funny picture and all that kind of stuff. However, if it's not actually given a full entire story, it's not going to deliver every little detail of what you want it to look like. So how is it supposed to even have, life to it?
well, and one of the bigger problems as well, and this is the crux, I believe, of the issue, is a lot of these AI, like Midjourney, for example. Midjourney is wrapped up in a whole bundle of lawsuits recently because what they did was essentially scrape the internet for art without people's consent.
Whoops.
And now, of all people, of all the heroes to emerge from this story, Getty Images is now suing Midjourney AI.
I literally just heard about that this morning, yeah.
Yeah, because now Getty Images, we all know the Getty Images logo. It's that grey bar. They do stock photos. Now, they actually sold a set of photos to Midjourney to do their thing, to make more images, to train it. However, they were able to prove that Midjourney broke their contract with them because they didn't just use the images allocated to them, they scraped their entire library and fed all of it to the AI. Wow. And they could tell because of the image. So when you purchase a Getty Images photo, I don't know if anyone here knows this at the table, but you can get that photo without the watermark. That is why they want you to pay for those images, to get rid of the watermark.
Yeah,
however,
that's what a lot of companies do just for, stock photo type thing.
Right. However, with Getty Images, every single time a photo was being spit out, it had the warped watermark on it, proving without a doubt that they stole those images.
Yeah, and again, we're coming back down to the whole hallucinogenic error codes, right?
Right.
It can't do everything we want it to do. It's the same thing why it can't really doodle faces correctly. You could literally type in a chat GPT or Dolly and say, I want a picture of let's say Star Queen reading Time magazine or something, right?
Right.
So you might get a decent picture of, Star Queen on the front. However, if you're wanting Star Queen to also be generated on the Time magazine, it can't go into that next level of depth.
Right.
Now, there is one exception to this rule that did actually ask artists for their work and have been using it, that you can consent in and out of. And there is an AI out there, and it's very popular amongst the D&D crowd. It's called Art Breeder, where it's basically a bunch of portraits of characters and people of all different races, ethnicities, hair color, eye color, skin color, features, types, traits, you name it. And the whole goal is, it's almost like in The Sims, when you take two Sims, they have a baby, and what comes out is a mix, right? Mm-hmm. Same with Art Breeder, is it takes two pictures that an artist have generated, you pick and choose which traits you want. So you can say, okay, this is the male, this is the female type, and it doesn't have to be male and female. It could be male and male, it could be female, female, anything along those lines. And you tell the AI specifically what traits you want, because that's how good it's become at recognizing those features, and it makes a new person out of that. But the difference is, it didn't scrape the internet for those images. Every single one of those images inside its database was given by an artist that was paid willingly for their work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Again, very popular amongst the D&D crowd. I've done it too for Star Wars.
So that actually sparks another little chunk into this. There's a big topic right now that there is absolutely too much information on the internet, right? You can cycle through millions and millions and millions of code and pictures and all this other stuff. So at what point does it become a fraud, like completely? Because we have all these fake profiles on Facebook and things like that are being made. AI is generating these fake faces to create fraud news and all this other stuff and posts, left wing, right wing type things without getting too political about it. But, that is also another scary part that is about the artificial intelligence right now, is because we are starting to create even more problems because we already have too much hate in the world and all this other stuff, right?
Well, Redemus, I want you to think about this really. It's all simple, okay? Anything. I don't care if it's microphones. I don't care if it's large screen TVs, the cell phones in which we have, the lovely supercomputers in which we have in our pockets. Hey, it's cyberpunk after all. It can be either good or evil, depending on the user.
Correct. It does come down to a point of, we have 50% this could be used responsibly,
yes,
and 50% not used correctly.
Yeah.
The problem is it leans more towards the other 50% right now.
That's sad, and that's frightening, simply because, just like everything else in life, hell, I can just take a simple coffee cup, some ammonia, an SOS pad, and use your microwave as a detonator.
Yeah, I mean, you can get pretty creative with it for sure.
But here's the thing. Am I going to do that? No. Do I have the knowledge to do what I just said? Yeah, but I choose not to.
Well, it's the same thing with like chemistry teachers. They pretty much all know how to, make certain things that we can't really talk about on the internet.
But it made for a great TV show.
It did make for a great TV show, but it is true. All my chemistry teachers said, yes, they do know how to, but obviously it's a choice of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
It's all up to the user of what they do with it. And to that point, and again, this might be like just me being on the other side of this, I do think that the artificial intelligence, there is a lot of benefits to it. Let's take a look at the fact that, there are certain kids and families and stuff that can't afford tutors and things like that for school or education or whatever. If we get to the point where we can create simple or simplistic education from the AI, we now have the ability to send it to these families and teach these kids a little bit more on, how to do things when they can't afford to go to see somebody, or maybe, they're just deathly sick and they need the help. Or let's talk about Baymax, for instance, from, Big Hero 6. I know we're again, it's kind of nerdy, whatever, but it's kind of a thing. What if we are able to get to the point where we can create AI that is able to go medically go help people and do simplistic things to help doctors?
This is true.
There's a lot of good possibility with the AI. The problem is the bad is now outweighing the good.
Yeah, because I remember back in the early 80s when this one theory, was brought up. And it came in the form of a movie called The Terminator.
Skynet is coming. We are aware of this.
Yes, because I don't know. Call me crazy. I don't care. But for the sake of argument, what if somebody in this world was to weaponize AI?
Well, and that was actually a huge topic on a lot of the other podcasts and stuff I listened to on to and from work the last few days. Is, it could literally go on there and ask the question, or China or something could go on there and just be like, how do I cripple the U.S., right? So It's a concern. Obviously, because they have cut off the amount of information that they have, it's still enough to be like, okay, well, here's the the economical crash you could do or something like that.
Or
that is an issue.
We hope that it's not an I have no mouth and I must scream type situation where both the US and China both develop an AI at the same time, they become sentient, they become aware of each other, they merge, decide humanity isn't worth it, and nuclear holocaust. But I think that also brings up the point as well that too many people, I believe, are focused on those doomsday scenarios to truly see what's going on now as a preventative measure.
But that is a good thing. That's exactly why they released, the OpenAI and all that so early, is because they need people to do these fail safes. Because in order for them to find the bugs, we have to make the bad choices.
Well, and IBM also released their version of what AI ethics would be, and a big part of that is, one, making sure that whoever made the AI had a diverse team, because that is something that I'm not sure if anyone here is familiar with the AI Tay and what happened on Twitter with her.
Yep.
However, with that scenario, that was a case of Tay not being developed by a diverse team, and as such, Tay became very susceptible to being racist to the point where she was brought offline.
Wow.
Yeah, that, and people also cracked her code really quick, so if you DM'd her and you said, hey, Tay, can you tweet out this? She would do it, because Tay was programmed to be a teenage girl.
Right.
And as you can imagine, a lot of people jumped on this, and while it was a joke, it's something that has been jumping out with other AI as well, especially OpenAI that are on Twitter and on social media platforms.
It sounds almost like we're raising children when you really think about it.
A little bit, yeah.
Well, and okay, so let's talk about, more on towards the nerdy side. What if we do get to the point where we do have the AI that are in robotic bodies?
When I was but a teenager watching Star Trek The Next Generation, going back to then Lieutenant Commander Data, it was like, okay, this is an AI. This is an android, a serving member of Starfleet. Great character. It had all the wonder and the awe of a child, but all the mathematical complexity and the might and the power of a god at the same time. And I said, I could see this happening one day in my lifetime. Hey, guess what, kids?
Getting pretty close.
Yeah, we're close.
Well, I just showed you guys that video of, what was it, the Atomic, and the one that has the expressional, emotional feelings in its programming and everything. Yeah. It's slowly growing to the point where it can fully understand and all those kind of things. We had another one, too, not too long ago, where we were very close to sentience because the AI was asking why to certain questions, and immediately the servers were basically axed, of course. But it comes down to just, how much do we really push into there? Because if anything, we're going to run into the Ultron issue. Yes. Marvel knows its thing. You know what I mean? Yes, it's science fiction, but science fiction is going to eventually become real. All will return to metal.
Or, it could be the case of what happened with that one Google engineer who made himself an AI girlfriend, and then the AI girlfriend ghosted him.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. Because
let's talk about that.
In case you guys actually haven't seen the movie, so it's Joaquin Phoenix. It's technically considered an indie, but it's kind of a cult classic at this point. So the movie's called Her, okay?
Yeah,
I've seen it.
I've seen
that.
Yes,
also has Scarlett Johansson in there. She plays the AI, okay?
Yeah.
we live in a utopian world where basically we're just everything is at our ear, just like Elon Musk is basically one anyways, but it's just in the form of like an iPod shuffle type thing in your ear. But so at that point too, I know that again, it comes down to like, is the AI considered human at that point or whatever? Because at that point you can purchase things like that. I mean, Japan has those, stay at home pre-programmed girlfriend things you can get, and it texts you and like all this other stuff to make you feel happy.
In the latest version of Blade Runner, in which I saw, I love this. I love the Blade Runner series.
Oh, absolutely.
And the frightening part was you can actually pre-program your girlfriend to cook, clean. You can have her do whatever you want. You know?
Well, and that's the thing. So at that point, then, where do humans become at fault?
This is the question.
Because it's not real. Your mind tells you it's not real. We program what's real, what's a dog, what's a cat, and those kind of things. That's also part of the machine learning thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if the machine does start to learn how to, quote unquote, have feelings, just like in the movie, but then you not necessarily get ghosted, but it might decide that it's a, polyamorous being at that point, because it does happen. I mean, they could literally just travel on the internet and then go meet other AI.
Or it leaves you.
And
then you're back to square one.
Or it's a combo of both. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that happened to, Joaquin Phoenix in the movie, is he ended up losing her to another AI,
mm-hmm.
and then he's just left to go mingle with real people.
Let's take it one step further, Redeemus. How far are we willing to go?
Well, that's also a huge question.
Well, here's the thing. I'm not done with the question here. And I'm talking to you, gentle reader. Please put your thoughts in the comments down below. How far are we willing to take this to become gods ourselves? That we can actually create life outside of normal sexual reproduction?
Well, we kind of already starting to get there. We have those fake embryos that people are trying to grow. They're growing wildlife at the moment.
And let's take it another step further beyond that. What if we can create those brain cells from AI itself?
And you very well could be. So again, let's go back to the science fiction of it, because we are starting to get a little closer with that. We have so many neurons and things like that inside our minds, and all that kind of stuff anyway.
Like trillions
and trillions. But we're just now starting to tap into a third of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because of science has gone so far at this point. We are getting to the point where we can save memories.
Yeah, because I remember one time I was talking to a physicist and out of college, in which I just happened to be very fond of, and he was a devout Hindu.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to talking between where's the science and where does mysticism begin. And I proposed, what if, for the sake of argument, the neurons in the brain is the soul? Because those are our experiences, those are our thoughts, those are our ideas, those are our ethics, etc.
Right.
Can you create that for an AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's all programming, right? Whether it's actually through your neurons in your brain or whatever, or a program that you put into a computer.
This is true.
Yeah, the internet becomes the neurons for the mind and everything else. Because, I mean, I remember, even it wasn't an actual myth. I remember that science was actually getting to the point, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was back in like 2017. There was that Russian gentleman that was completely paraplegic and all that other stuff. And he wanted his head to be removed and put on another body so he can continue his work.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
No, right. So he actually ended up saying he actually fell in love with somebody and all that good stuff. So he just couldn't go through it because the person loved him for who he is, which is wonderful. But that is a possibility now. Now think of Futurama here.
Or altered carbon.
Altered carbon, yeah. We are at that point now where biomed is so fascinating and so far into the future at this point.
Are you familiar with the 2003 update of Battlestar Galactica?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, you're uploading your neurons across a stream and you're downloading into a new body.
Yeah.
And if you're perpetuating yourself.
Or what was the movie Chappie? Remember Chappie?
Yes.
Same concept.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on the horrifying end of that, there's the video game Soma.
Yeah, soma. That's a thing too. That's a problem.
Yeah, with the whole, you're cycling, but so what happens with the part of you that is the original copy then? Because, when you play a video game and you save, you're saving the disc, but if you separate the disc and the save file without the disc in there, well, you're just a copy. So
Correct.
and you're left behind. So
Yeah.
kind of horrifying. Also, sorry for spoiling that game for anyone who's not played it.
That game has been out for how long now? I think they're past that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many possibilities, and when I was looking into more of it, I personally am at the point of I am excited. I think that we do have still the ability to learn.
Yeah.
I do believe in society. I do believe in humanity, that we will make a right choice.
But here's the thing. You have to take it one step at a time with extreme caution.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And quit thinking of the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's also been a big thing is obviously, how do we militarize this and all this other stuff?
Because our reptilian nature tells us, okay, we have something new, kids.
Well, and that's actually another piece too, talking about the reptilian thing or whatever. It's a completely sociable thing that we as a nation and just human general, we like to fit into categories. We like to fit into a order, almost like a totalitarian style life, right?
Well,
we have laws, we have certain things we have to do or we want to do, but we know we have to do it, and we have to follow in line in order to do that.
It's societal laws.
Yeah, we have community, and for the sake of living in a functioning society, there are certain things that we have to abide by. That isn't biologically programmed into us. We just have to, it's just a law that we all agree on, that we just abide by. Like, we're not intrinsically supposed to wear clothes. We're born naked, but if you go out into the street naked,
It's kind of a no-no.
Yeah, you're going to get arrested. And it's generally agreed upon that, that's a bad thing, that you shouldn't do that.
That is a bad thing. But now let's bring that back to AI. At what point, if we do get them, quote-unquote, humanized, aka putting them in a robotic body, do they become the order keeper, or do we still continue to be the order keeper? Again, it goes back to the whole, is it in human rights to own a robot, or is it human rights to tell a robot what to do?
It kind of reminisces the relationship between Captain Jean-Luc Picard and Data.
Mm-hmm.
Because Data always wanted to be human and experience everything concerning humanity, including the experience of death, in which he did survive it.
Yeah. What was the point of the Borgs?
Yeah.
Complete opposite?
The polar opposite.
Complete polar opposite?
Because that relationship going back with Picard and Data would ask questions. Why things are the way they are.
Yeah, he's sentient at that point.
And Picard, on the other hand, would simply respond, this is how humanity is. Some things and topics about the human race can be answered, but, some things like politics, they can't be answered.
Yeah, so, and also the other thing that kind of ties into that too is let's talk about the 3 laws of robotics.
As Isaac Asimov.
Correct. First law is that a robot shall not harm a human or by inaction allow a human to come to harm. How do we translate that to AI itself? Because a robot is not the same thing as an AI.
Don't give them control of the drones for the love of God.
Dave, I do not know.
Do not put them in cars either.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave.
Don't put them in cars. Don't put them in heavy machinery. Don't give them any situation where they could get even remotely close to a drone or any aircraft.
Second law is that a robot shall obey any instruction given to it by a human.
Ooh, that's dicey.
Ooh, I could see that becoming a real hot topic real quick if we do get the whole robot girlfriends and robot boyfriends thing going.
Correct.
Because
that also goes with the AI thing.
Yeah, because if, there is an AI in a robotic body and you want to get married, if that thing doesn't have rights, and well, I guess you can technically marry an object depending on where you are in the world, but still, they don't have that right.
Yeah. I mean, technically they can't feel anything, or what if they do become able to feel something? Do they have the ability to say yes or no?
Or could it be an Atomic Heart situation where, for those of you who haven't played the game, sorry, this is spoilers as well, there's 2 twin AIs in that game, and they're female robots, and they're pretty cheesecakey, I will say that. However, they were made by your boss, and it turns out the AI was based on your dead wife.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
Scary shit, that.
And third and final law is that a robot shall avoid actions or situations that could cause it to come to harm to itself.
This is true.
Yeah. So that's also a very, very, very like dark type law at that point. I mean, we won't go super, super detail into it. However, it's one of those things where, is a robot or an AI unsafe?
That depends.
Is it unsafe to itself? Is it unsafe to us?
That will depend on the creator.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, I mean, when you really think about it, and you're writing the computer program, and then all of a sudden you're creating an AI for a robot or a synthezoid or an android or anything relatable to actual robotics, that programmer is going to have a choice. Is this machine will destroy other people, or will this programmer do the right thing and say, okay, I want to make this beneficial for people?
Yes. Now, here's a kind of a cycle around that. It's a little happier than that type of topic, but it also has to deal with what we just talked about.
Right.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. What happened? And I'm sorry, this is a spoiler at this point. You can skip. It's going to take like 2 seconds to kind of go over. Sharkweed, what happened to the professors?
Oh yeah, the professor, turns out they were dead the whole time, and it was an AI that was talking to you.
Correct. And it is the memory implanted into the AIs of the original professors before what happened to them in the actual storyline. So the future professor, Professor Turo is his name, he was trying to move into the future to check out future Pokemon and see how the world had developed and all those kind of things with the Pokemon and stuff like that. In Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, depending on which game you got, what was the Scarlet's doctor name?
So Scarlet was Professor Sada, and Sada's deal was she wanted to bring back extinct prehistoric Pokemon and have them live in the modern day with regular Pokemon.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then also, too, because of going to the future, he tried to create this utopian thing, and when he died, he created the AI that was going to have an AI protocol to protect that warp gate.
Right.
Essentially. Now, the AI had actually basically got a secondary sentient thought process from its original programming.
Right.
Which the original programming is a defense protocol. And it was designed to defend the gate being shut down and all that kind of stuff. However, the bicentennial version of Professor Turo, which was the legitimate memories of him.
Right.
In this AI was telling you that you needed to shut down this warp gate because you're letting all these futuristic Pokemon into Paldea and the area, and it could cause all kinds of issues. Kind of like a butterfly effect type thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So how do you do that? At what point does that sentience take over its own programming? How do you make it to where it can take over that programming?
That is a fierce question.
Yeah, it's a pretty thought process one. I mean, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is probably one of the coolest stories out of any of the Pokemon games, and for a Nintendo game in general. I'm not saying that the Nintendo stories are not good. They are very good. However, I feel like Pokemon Story, I feel like Scarlet and Violet, where yes, it's super buggy still, and it's super frame rate drop and everything, not great. Story-wise, oh my god, it's amazing. It actually has a legitly good story. But it's a good, it's a very, very good point on the AI thing.
Right.
So that's actually why I was thinking about it all week. I'm I just beat it, and I'm oh my god, I want to talk about that part.
Well, and Professor Sada, her obsession with the past was causing consequences for the present because all these dinosaur and prehistoric Pokemon went extinct for a reason.
Yeah.
And as you were finding out in the game, it was causing just untold, like, ecological damage. And to the point where you as the player kind of realized it's kind of a Jurassic Park situation at that point.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the AI herself, she wanted to go back to the past because she wanted to be there with the prehistoric Pokemon and see what the past was like and how she could hopefully build a better future to where maybe that wouldn't happen. Which Pokemon timeline theory is nuts if you haven't delved into that.
Yeah, they have some crazy stuff. So also too, I put out a poll earlier today, and I basically just asked the question. I said, how do you feel about artificial intelligence and where do you think it's going? The general consensus is Skynet.
I thought so.
Yes, a lot of people
Do you
are
want
literally...
Skynet? This is how we get Skynet.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of people that are posting Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator.
Oh, we're in trouble.
We're going
kids.
T1000 through 3000 type thing, I guess. But,
Here we
I mean,
go.
some people did actually have some interesting stuff. We had a gentleman named Travis Christoph come in here and say, I think it's a tool to be used, and like all tools, all come down to the responsibility, which we discussed.
Yes.
We had Miss Tina Conway come on here.
Hi, Tina.
And she said, I can tell you what my company pressures us to sell for is to replace actual staff with integrated guards. Which, I mean, that is definitely
Can we say Cylons?
Yeah, defense protocol type thing.
Yeah.
That would actually be very scary. But the good news is, though, like I said, a lot of these jobs are not threatened as people think it is, which is good right now.
Yeah, we need human judgment in order to do human jobs.
Yeah, I mean, unless you work for Amazon, half the staff is robots. But,
True.
Other than that, we had Chris Wood. He said, most stuff doesn't scare me technology-wise, but this scares the shit out of me. That's fair. That's
Very
fair.
fair.
Ross Hummel, he came on here and he said, have we not seen Iron Man? Jarvis is a criminal. I really don't know what to think of that. And I mean, I was thinking more Ultron, but yeah, sure, we'll go with the Jarvis as an issue.
I agree.
Then we had Miss Shayna Stevens. She came in and said, I think it's a great learning tool and idea generator, but I don't like how many they rip from illegal art, essentially. So we talked about that. I had my art uploaded to one directly by a website. Friends have found their signatures in the backgrounds of generated images. People tried selling art as conventions. We saw that.
Yeah.
We saw that.
that.
And then we had Mr. Charles Drury. He said, AI doesn't exist. It takes human control to input data. Skynet is not near complete. 00100111100110001. And it continues on.
0011110000001.
Yes. And I mean, hey, this is, a big topic among, like I said, among YouTube and everybody. Everybody's talking about it at this point. I know that, again, it's scaring a lot more people than I think it's exciting people, but we have both sides at this point. I think it's very well into the future still.
Yes.
We're getting close.
We're close.
We're doing all the bug testing right now. If you haven't actually had a chance to, and again, if you're like a storyteller and you're struggling with certain things, I know that a lot of like educational people have said that this is the college essay killer. Keep in mind that you still need to pay attention to what these things are writing because they still make errors, okay?
A lot.
There is a lot of things that companies need to take into consideration that are buying, a lot of the updated versions. These mathematical problems, the AI is so sure that these are correct that they're not. This can make massive issues for companies and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
That's why with Bing and ChatGPT, that didn't end up going ahead because I discovered that it wasn't actually searching the results. It was just making them up.
No, just making up a bunch of bullshit.
Just making up some numbers, and it sounded legit.
Right. And that's kind of the issue that we also need to pay attention to, which again, we're doing all the bug testing and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, and please, for God's sake, all you guys in the Pentagon, please don't weaponize AI.
Well, yeah.
Please don't.
And we're getting a mail room right now. Oh, well, it's time to end the episode. No, I was kidding.
Oh, shit. They found us.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I think that there's a lot of cool stuff. I think that this is the point in time in life where we do need to be concerned about it. Try to support local artists and online artists and all this other stuff as much as possible. I'm a purveyor of loving old ink and pen. Japanese watercolors. I love all the old stuff, okay? The new digital stuff, still not a huge fan of it, but, you know, it is the way of the future. I think it is a point where we do need to move towards the future, but keep the past in your mind as well.
Yep.
And, you know, with that, at least that way we can pay attention to AI, keep an eye on what it's doing and all those other things, and, you know, take the axe to the server room if we need to at this point. Did you guys have any closing, you know, opinions or anything you wanted to hit on? Or?
Oh, I do.
I've got just like a fun fact, I guess.
Sure.
So in Transformers, there's a very well-known AI that we all know called Teletran 1, right?
Yes.
But Teletran 1 isn't actually the original Teletran, believe it or not.
Oh?
There is a Teletran Alpha that was lost and may or may not have been the reason why Nova Prime went crazy, because Teletran's job was to take as much data as it could from a certain situation and predict an outcome, right?
Yep.
But it became so good at doing that to the point where it could literally tell you how you were going to die.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Predictability, that's fun.
Yeah, so if anyone plays the game Transformers Devastation and you walk over a certain platform and Teletran Alpha scans you, depending on which character you're playing as, it tells you the future. So it tells Optimus Prime, yeah, you're going to die.
Gee, where have I seen that before?
Yeah, so he tells him, like, yep, you're going to die. It tells Sideswipe and Bumblebee, like, you're going to be okay, but things are going to get difficult. It says to Wheeljack, yeah, you're going to die as well. But interestingly, it was only if you were from Cybertron, because when it came to Grimlock was technically an AI that was built by Wheeljack.
He was a cold freeze, right?
No, he wasn't.
Oh.
Not in Generation
Oh,
1. Him and the Dinobots were built by Wheeljack because Optimus wanted robot dinosaurs.
Oh, that's right.
And he gave him robot dinosaurs.
He was just curious about humanity's past, Earth's past. So he created the Dinobots. What were the dinosaurs like? And well, lo and behold, there we got Dinobots.
So essentially, when Teletran Alpha scanned Grimlock, it just got an error message because it was an AI scanning another AI, but neither of them had interacted before. So while Teletran Alpha was going crazy, Grimlock thought the wall was talking to him and told him to stop because it was annoying him.
That reminds me of the old Furbies of the 90s, where they advertised that those were actually learning and talking with you and all that. No,
Yeah, it was a bit like that.
for the record, those were all pre-programmed for those that are still under the impression that in the myth that the Furbies actually listen to you. They don't. It was pre-programmed.
But yeah, it became so good at telling the future that it basically drove Nova Prime to accidentally find Unicron, and that's how he went crazy, and also why they have Teletran 1. And noticeably, they took out that ability, because I think walking into work with a coffee every day, being like, hey, how's the weather? And being told, you're gonna die in 3 days.
Yeah, that would suck.
That's not very nice.
Yeah. Lovecraft, you said you had some more?
Yeah.
My final thoughts are going to come to you with the following stream of consciousness and a parable. Here goes. It's roughly 9 o'clock in the evening. I get up, unroll the drapes, and I take a look outside of Neo Tokyo. I see all the lovely advertisements ranging from Coca-Cola to Polaroid to Samsung to things in which we will never see in our lifetime. I go take a shower. I smell food cooking, and I go downstairs to the kitchen, and I see a very tall, statuesque, beautiful woman. Her skin, I noticed, when I touch her arm, all of a sudden, her already programmed ripple effect, as I see upon her artificial tattoo saying Wayland Yutani. Good evening, dear. You're getting ready for work, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, dear. It's another shift in downtown Tokyo. As I put in new rounds inside of my 9mm, brand new explosive shells. Yep, it's that time of night again. Don't forget your coffee, dear. I love you. I love you too. As my lips press against an already plasmasoid flesh, I close the door behind me and lock it. And I go down to the whirl and the bustle of Neo-Tokyo. 15 million people. I see normal human beings and new android bodies. And I said to myself, what a new, wonderful world we live in. Only if we could do it responsibly and safely. Get along with each other in kindness and respect. God, what a beautiful world that is. For in the end, all that loves has a soul.
And with that, we are going to go ahead and call it quits for this episode. Thanks for checking this one out. I know it's a little bit more on the science-y area. We tried to include some movies and all that kind of stuff too, but this is a big deal. We wanted to kind of talk about this one a little bit and try to, see both sides of the arguments on those kind of things too. We didn't want to keep it too political and all that, but it's an interesting topic. It is within the nerdism that is 8-bits and dice rolls. So thank you again. And if you have any other interesting bits you want to add about the AI topics, or, maybe see what your opinion is, definitely drop it in the comments below.
Yeah, we want to hear them. We read everything.
Yes,
so,
and we do comment back on them. So that's always a good thing.
Yep.
But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to put that coin in the slot, hit that power button, roll for initiative, and we'll see you next time.
Later.